have big news out of China and AI. So China's $47 billion semiconductor fund that they've just put together right now is putting a lot of, questions and comments around chip sovereignty that people are talking about. So we recently had another interesting headline where people were saying Sam Altman was trying to raise like $7 trillion to do chip manufacturing all over the world, and he was going to make different world governments pay for these like essentially chip manufacturing hubs set up by Taiwan Semiconductor Company. Now, he got on a podcast recently and was like, I don't know where they got that $7 trillion number from. That's crazy. But the way he said it seemed very much like the way Steve Jobs or Elon Musk deny like a big rumor right before it actually gets confirmed. I remember listening to a podcast where this guy was like talking about Steve Jobs and was like, wouldn't it be amazing if you had a phone? And then Steve Jobs is like, yeah, we did a bunch of research and it turns out nobody actually wants like their iPod Touch to be on a phone. So that's ridiculous. And then like 2 weeks later, they announced the iPhone. So he was totally just bluffing the guy. I get that vibe with Sam Altman and this big chip thing. And also Elon Musk, I swear, recently did this when everyone was like, Elon Musk is going to raise $1 billion for XAI. And he's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. You're crazy. And then like a few days ago, he said they raised $6 billion. So people don't like rumors to get out early, and so they deny them a lot of time. I wonder what level that's happening with Sam Altman. But evidently, China has taken notice and said, look, this is a big deal because they've just created a $47 billion sovereign chip fund where they're essentially funding chips built in China. This is not a shocker. We've had a bunch of tension between America and China, where America essentially said, look, like companies like NVIDIA, they're like, look, you can't even manufacture some of these AI, these high-powered chips that could be used in AI because we want America to be number one. And NVIDIA's like, okay, fine. So they gave China like the weaker chips. They used some software, and China used some software to try to get around this and make them just as powerful. People debate if that was actually possible. In any case, this is a big deal, and China obviously doesn't want to get left behind in everything going on. So they've been doing a lot of stuff. Right now, a lot of people are calling this the Big Fund. It's launched its third round, which is Big Fund 3, with 344 billion yuan, which is, $47 billion, larger than its last two predecessors. So the Big Fund 3 right now is trying to help China boost their semiconductor industry and essentially reduce reliance on other countries, cough, cough, Taiwan, who they might invade, and America. So really, I think they're trying to emphasize some of their self-sufficiency in semiconductor production, because even if China decides like, hey, let's just go take over Taiwan and grab all that, I think there's been a bunch of rumors recently where some of the leadership over at TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Company, said they have like kill switches in the Taiwan semiconductor factory that if China ever invades Taiwan, they're going to push it and destroy the whole factory. So, I mean, that's kind of funny. I don't know if it's true. It probably is true. And honestly, it's probably true. I would be worried though, like what if that accidentally got pushed when it wasn't getting invaded and it nuked the whole factory? That sounds kind of terrible. So I don't really know how that whole thing works. China's obviously concerned enough to just build their own. And right now they're friendly enough in terms with everyone else. It doesn't seem like they're going to be invading Taiwan tomorrow, but they've been doing military drills all around it. In any case, Taiwan's TSMC right now produces about 90% of the world's most advanced chips. So this isn't a small number. And this geopolitical issue that I talk about and people are like, oh, he's getting too political. Like, I mean, whatever. It's like an actual issue that very directly impacts this entire thing. 70% of all of the most advanced chips are being built there. So any disruption in Taiwan is going to severely impact global chip supply. This is something everyone's concerned about. U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo was noting that China produces about 60% of legacy chips, which are commonly used in cars and appliances. So if there really was this big trade disruption, the U.S. would also be in trouble, and everyone else would also be in trouble if China decided they didn't want to ship chips, because sure, we're getting like 90% of the high-tech chips out of Taiwan, but 60% of the chips that we're using in cars and refrigerators and like other devices are getting the legacy chips are getting made in China. So it would be bad either way. I don't think, global war is a good idea for a lot of reasons, but especially for AI and for kind of this whole tech industry. So Heb Chen, who's a market analyst at IG, stated, quote, NVIDIA is walking a fine line between maintaining the Chinese market and navigating U.S. tensions. So it's kind of highlighting how the company is trying to adjust to all of the U.S. sanctions. They're tailoring their chips to China at a lower price point, but also trying to make sure that, they don't mess with the trade restrictions that the U.S. is setting in place. So what is the impact of quote unquote Big Fund 3? So I think despite really significant funding. The past investments have had kind of mixed results. Bloomberg was noting that there's a bunch of frustration among Chinese leadership over the slow development of domestic semiconductors. And also, there's a bunch of corruption investigations involving the former boss of Big Fund. Anytime there's big money and big fund, there just seems to be corruption. That's America, China, all over the world. So that's something else. And then I think another interesting thing is it's like apparently the Chinese leadership is like not happy with how slow it is. These manufacturing facilities take a freaking long time to boot up. And this is a reason why we're seeing like Alphabet, Meta, a ton of these companies are like, we're going to build our own chips to compete with NVIDIA. Yeah, NVIDIA is been crushing it for like 2 years because they have all the manufacturing facilities built out, which was a ton of capex, a ton of work. They're years ahead. By the time Meta gets their manufacturing facility to make the chip that competes with the H100, we're going to be on the H300 by NVIDIA. So the manufacturing facility itself, I think, is a competitive advantage a lot of people overlook. And China obviously is struggling. Like China, by the way, is very fast at building manufacturing facilities. If you look at Tesla's manufacturing plant, it was built in record time. I think like half the time it took them to build their Texas plant and maybe like 3 times faster than building their Berlin plant in Germany. So manufacturing plants are something that China's very fast at, and they're still mad about how slow it's getting built. So I think this goes to show how difficult these manufacturing facilities really are. Listen, if you enjoyed the episode and if you learned anything new, I'm going to keep you up to date on how this goes. But the deal is, in exchange for keeping you up to date, if you could subscribe or follow, like this, and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts, I would really, really appreciate it. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.